Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah, I was just saying, Cuomo said that, May 15th, we're going to open the city back up, which who knows if that's too soon or...
Who knows, yeah. I think he did say, like, that's the next time that we'll try.
Right. Yeah, he seems like he's kind of not putting his foot in his own mouth. He's just kind of saying, we're not ready yet. Let's push it back.
I think he's doing good, man. It's there's going to be a horrible choice that people have to make. It puts, the horrible, painful choices that we have to make in perspective when those people have to decide, okay, at what point am I going to accept the human carnage of, because some people are going to die, right? If they opened up, like, some people are going to die. So that unbelievably difficult challenge about, like, this is a small enough people to die in exchange for only like a worse recession of our life, but avoiding hopefully an iconic Great Depression. Like, ugh.
How are you handling it? I mean, you and I talked a few weeks ago, which I thought it was great to hear your perspective on it, which is, a big reason why I wanted you to come on. But,
yeah.
It's in a weird situation because, like I said, my lease is up May 31st, and I don't know if I'm re-signing it. I really don't. And honestly, I'm not going to say I don't care, but I just don't know what the right decision is yet. You have two facilities. You were thinking about closing one of them up. Like, what is your whole? And then as soon as they say it's okay to open, what are you going to do?
Well, my assumption is, this is the thing that I think is going to be a challenge for anyone in probably any market, but particularly New York, is it's always a real estate game, right? It's just a real estate game. It's like how profitable, how much money can you make and how much profit can you make per the square foot. So the thing I assume is going to happen, which is going to be very difficult for everybody, is we're looking at probably at least 12 months. People have to be 6 feet apart, which means everybody's going to have a lot less capacity. That's not going to lower most of your expenses. You can make everybody, yourself most of all, take big pay cuts and just like have a year where you're all just eating it, But like I assume my landlords are not going to be like hooking me up, right? Maybe some of the vendors can help a little bit. But the thing is, right now it's not too bad because we're closed. We don't really have expenses. Everybody's furloughed. Like the virtual stuff is more than covering the expenses we have. But once we open back up, and I don't know, there's a world in which we can really figure out, which is what we're thinking of now, but don't really know how to do it yet. Because the virtual stuff has been a big thing. And I think that could be like basically become another location that's highly profitable. And I think there's a way that we can integrate that to get some profitability. But until we can get, 15 people in a room and pack them in sardines like we have, it's just not, we won't really be able to nearly make the same amount of money that we were making. And, that just is what it is. Like, life is unfair. But
yeah, no, I understand. I want to get Derek's perspective on it. I mean, what's a little bizarre to me is that we're all quarantined right now, and then there's a chance, in a month, like we're all just 4 million people are going to hop back on the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North and start commuting into the city together. Like, this is going to be catastrophic in my eyes. I mean, we're not idiots here. Like, all it takes is for this thing to start multiplying again, and then we're going to be back in the same boat we were for the next 4 months. Like, I think, is this too premature? I think it is, maybe.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately there is, the Imperial College report. Have any of you gentlemen checked that out yet?
No.
It's real dark. The premise of that report, and it's a little bit controversial. There's some people, most notably Bill Gates, that said it's maybe a little bit overly pessimistic. But basically, the only way we get through this without seeing like massive casualties is we just repeat the same cycle. Like, we open up for 2 to 3 months, and then we lock down for 1 to 2 months. And we open up for 3 months, and then we lock down for 2 to 3 months. Hopefully the vaccine is 12 months, but the vaccine might take a year and a half, like they're not necessarily going to get it right on the first one. So that's really challenging, because you're going to have to now be prepared to turn your business off, renegotiate with all your vendors every couple months. Now, the only thing we've really got going for us is I do think this is probably, I don't think it's going to be a Great Depression, but I think this is the other thing too I'm like fascinated by, because I'm also like a fan of finance. So I'm watching the stock market and I'm like, is anybody reading? Like everybody says this is going to be worse than anything we've ever seen in our lifetime, because that's the two pieces of it. I think for gym owners particularly, you have these two like horrible unknowns where the best case scenario is not that great. Unknown number one is, what does the social distancing requirement do to change your business model, your profitability, your capacity? But unknown number two is, what kind of impact this has on the economy? It's going to be real bad for a while, but is it going to be unbelievably bad? And is it going to be for, 2 years? Like Deloitte, Boston Consulting Group. I mean, I'm looking at reports from some of those people. They're saying like 5 years we'll get back to where we were. Like dark. And again, I remain ever the optimist, because at the end of the day, it's like, it sucks, but like, we're all screwed together. It's not like, unless you're like in cybersecurity, right? Like, nobody's unscathed. And even the people that happen to be in industries that win are dealing with the same emotional and psychological mental toll the rest of us are having. So I weirdly do take some consolation in that. And there's a chance, I'm not banking on this, but I think there's a chance the government can continue to come through with good stimulus packages. The PPP was actually awesome. They ran out of money, but I assume they're going to fill it back up pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think we know more now about monetary theory. We did depression. Depression, they did everything wrong, right? So I think there's actually a chance the government can really help out with this. But my kind of MO, and I kind of the same with personal finance, where like, I'm not banking on having Social Security, so I don't have to worry about that mess. If that happens, amazing. What a great bonus. But like, I'm assuming I'm going to have to do this on my own. Kind of feel the same way about government intervention. In the back of my head, I believe wholeheartedly we're going to keep seeing stimulus. We're going to keep seeing things that are going to help close the gaps. But mentally, I'm not banking on it unless I've got the cash in the bank.
Right. D, what do you think?
I think there should be this whole resurgence of altitude training again, where we got the masks, and we're in the tents, and and we get better VO2 max out of it. It's pretty interesting. Like, I've had talks with NBA teams, NCAA teams, and they don't know what's going to happen in terms of their timelines. Like, does the NBA come back and do a playoff in August or July or whatever it is? Do they have fans? Do they, what kind of testing is involved? How frequently? Some of the schools are worried that programs are going to be cut. Like, will they cut football at smaller schools because it's not making money? So there's all these questions. And then you guys were talking about the virtual space. I work with a PT clinic, and I'm trying to figure out the telehealth thing right now, because like Mark said, we're going to be in this for a while, so we better start looking at alternative ways. Like, I have friends who are like, "Oh, I'm a manual therapist. I have to touch people." I'm like, "Well, you got to figure that out.
You're in trouble.
What's the alternative?"
Yeah.
Right. So I think all of us have to kind of figure out what our move is forward here. I memean, if we return to conventional stuff, great, but we have to think that maybe we have to create some other options here.
Yeah, there's just so much uncertainty, Mark, and I think even with Manhattan real estate right now, because you know what's going to happen. I mean, it's obvious. It's we're going to go back when it's time to go back, whether it's May, June, July, and business owners are going to want out of their lease, and landlords are going to say, "Oh, it's no big deal," because they don't want to deal with it, right? And it's just for instance, like if I turn to my landlord right now and I would say this in front of him, and I said, "My lease is May 31st. I'm done. I don't want the space. I don't want the risk. I don't know what's going to happen in 3 months." And he's going to completely deny that. And brokers, real estate brokers I have a broker that I've been working with that's been contacting me, like, let us know if there's anything we can do. And I'm thinking to myself, I almost got a little annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck do you think you can do right now? Like, seriously? Like, you're right. Could you help? Like, he's going to be like this, like, what kind of comment is that? Like, no one can do anything right now. Like, the government's helping out with those PPP loans. I mean, yes, I think that's been a huge help. But who knows the after effect of that? What the hell's going to happen next year when they've given out how many trillions of dollars in money to small businesses? Like, where's this money coming from?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, the one thing I do come back to that feels like the silver lining, and admittedly, this isn't the case for everybody, but I think anybody that has some control, I actually think this is the case for everybody. I think it's a limiting belief that's really only entrepreneurs that have this control. But this is the other thing I think is true. In good times, what happens is invariably your dream life changes over time, but the constraints and the momentum and the inertia of a business doesn't. And it's usually very difficult to rip off those band-aids because there's such costs. There's emotional costs, collateral costs, sometimes financial costs. And the great opportunity of this is, hopefully this is a once in a lifetime thing, hopefully, knock on wood, that we can really look and zero sum the life and be like, I sort of did this activity on a whim the other day, and I'm writing an article for Business for Unicorns about this. Literally just write down, like, what are all the things you like hated about your old life you want to stop doing? What do you want to do less of? What do you want to do more of? And what do you want to start doing? And I think for a lot of people, and presumably a lot of people listening, hopefully, or at least in the place where, at least between unemployment and things, they're not actually truly below the poverty line, right? Because I want to acknowledge we're speaking in a place of privilege right now. If you're below the poverty line, that's a different conversation.
Right.
But if you're able to at least pay your bills, even if you're not making a good living, and you're healthy, and you've got your brain power about you, and you can leverage all these new forms of education information, it's maybe not the life we wanted, but it's the life we have. I really do think there's an opportunity for people to just get really honest with themselves about what type of business do you want? What type of life do you want? What do you want to be doing? Who do you want to be working with? And then just make those changes, because tomorrow has never been promised. And this level of clarity that I think is possible, because we've so stepped out of our life, we're so untethered, I think is unique to this moment. I think maybe people touch on it. Of course, this is going to make a Burning Man reference right at the end of Burning Man, right? If you've been out of the world for 10 days, you have that moment where you're able to like read your own supplement facts bottle and like read and be like, I didn't know I had that much magnesium in me, right? And I think there is an opportunity for that level of self-exploration, but not just theoretical, but then also to be like, all right, well, what changes are you going to make? And you might have to cut off some arms. You might have to make some hard choices, but I think that is a huge opportunity of this moment that even people in tough situations could hopefully find some solace in.
Are you, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, like I'm asking a bad question, but are you stressed about this, or are you just saying there's only so much I can control? Because in a way, like, who am I stressed out about? Like I've kept on as many staff, employees that I can keep on. I've got cleaning staff and specific people I just didn't lay off, and I'm just dealing with it. It's like, they've been loyal to me, and I'm gonna, we'll all go down with the ship together is the way that I look at it. But I also, there's this level of realization for me where I'm just like, I'm doing everything. I believe I'm doing everything I can. Like, I'm pumping digital as much as possible. That's actually going very well. I mean, of course, I'm upset about the brick and mortar, and I'm upset that, my coaches are contributing and doing what they need to do. But there's another aspect of my business right now that I am like all in on. And I'm like, wow, like this is wild. Like I didn't expect this to go like this. What's your outlook with business right now?
Yeah, kind of the same. I'm not, a lot of people are like, oh, you must be really stressed right now. And like, honestly, right now I'm not. I'm going to have moments of stress, but as far as I'm concerned, you only get stressed if you're not sure what to do. Right? When it's like so obvious what to do, and I feel like the decisions are made for me, well, I'm not stressed. It's like not what I wanted, but like whatever. And I'll be like sad for a minute, sad, like, oh, this is the way this is playing out. It's not what I wanted. Darn it. But after that, you just accept, and you're like, okay. The only thing that gets stressful is when I'm like, do I do this thing, or do I do this thing? And I don't really have enough information. So I have to make this like challenging choice, and they're both kind of bad. That gets stressful. But right now, while we're shut down, I'm not stressed, because like, well, I know what this is. Now, I'm sure I'm going to have moments of in the next 12 months, but right now mentally, kind of similar to you, Don, like the other thing too that, I'm fortunate about is I have other revenue streams. So it's not like this is like, and also like my life is not big. Like I don't live a big life. It costs my wife like nothing to live. So it's like, it's pretty easy, because I'm not like all these like crazy bills coming in. I'm like, nope, like I'm gonna eat a salad. That's pay for it.
How are you? Because I know, Derek, I mean, you and I talked about, and I never want to say pros and cons, like this is a good thing, but, we're getting to spend more time with our family. Like I'm definitely sleeping a lot more. Like I can't tell you the last 5 weeks of my life, I haven't woke up with an alarm one day. It doesn't mean I'm sleeping until 10 o'clock, but for me to get up at 6:30 every day, like, wow, I went from sleeping till 4:30 in the morning to 6:30 in the morning. Like things are changing for me now. And I think the family component, like I've been looking at my kids all day, and they're doing homeschooling, and there's a struggle there, but we're still together, and we're still, happy, and we're doing our best. How do you think after this, how are you going to change your lifestyle? And Derek, I'd like to hear your answers as well. How do you think this is going to motivate you, or are you going to change, or are there things that you want to change?
I'll let Mark go first there.
Yeah, I'm honestly not 100% sure yet, because I think a lot of it is still going to depend on some of the uncertainties going forward. But, like one thing I don't have an answer for that has been an interesting discovery, to tell the truth and shame the devil, is how comfortable I've been in this lifestyle. How comfortable I've been just kind of doing my own thing all day long and doing a couple calls. And, that's not, I miss people certainly, but I think if anything, one discovery I've made is a reminder what an incredible introvert I am, and how happy I am to mostly just putter along by myself and just wake up with, a 13-hour day of things scheduled in 30 and 45-minute increments, and like write my blog posts and then meditate and then, do emails for 30 minutes on the clock, and now it's time to go lift. And, so that level of autonomy in my schedule I've always known was important. It's really, making me ask some questions about, okay, well, what of that I want to come forward? Now, to be clear, I think we're all still going to have to eat some frogs. I don't mean, there's some compromises that I'm going to be willing to make, because even though it might not be the thing I want, the trade-off of whatever the upside of that thing might be. Like, I don't see a world where I don't have a physical brick and mortar facility with people, even though my life would be similar in some ways. But at the same time, this is novel. I wouldn't have told you I would have adapted well to this lifestyle. There's a part of me that's almost unsettled by it. That's like, you monster. Like, everyone's like, I just need to see other people. I'm like, this is actually fine with me. I'm just by myself all the time. Hang with my wife and my dog. Maybe I just need a house in the woods. Yeah. I'm just going to live in the woods and do like 1 to 2 Zoom calls per day, and I'm good. Because it's certainly not that I'm not working. I'm probably not working much less than I was before. It's a little smoother, but I'm still keeping the marketing channels going. And that's another thing too, that was a discovery that I'll have to figure out how we get in this new world. Part of the amount of work I need to put into operations and management and just the day-to-day of the business, even though I wasn't as day-to-day as a lot of owners, I'm realizing, well, when I have free time, I can crush content. Like, I've just been writing like a wild person. We had over 400 people sign up for a time management webinar we did. I can be a content marketing machine if I didn't have all these other things that were taking up my time. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to figure out what I want for my life, like the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How much of both of you guys, like there's something that I'm trying to figure out now, is how much do you reach out to your clients and go like, what do you guys want moving forward, versus like, do you take a leadership role and say, this is where we're going? Like, do you think there's a balance there, or do you have to lead, or do you have to listen to your clients?
I mean, so funny. I mean, Mark, I'll jump in first because it just kind of popped into my head. I mean, you have specific clients that are very, self-absorbed, and they just are like, leave the gym open. It's fine. We're going to be fine. And it's like, you have other people that are taking, different precautions. I spoke to one member today who says, I'm curious to see how you're going to think about things differently when you open, or when we're allowed to open. I thought it was a great question, because now are we going to, open the floodgates and start allowing, 40, 50 people in there, in a clip, or are we going to start trying to like slowly transition? Or, am I just going to say, listen, there's too much risk. This is it. This is my last month. I'm going to put everything on pause. We focus a lot on digital, start looking for space, see if the dust settles in the next 3 to 5 months, and jump back into things, which in my opinion would be the smart thing to do. But I'm emotional about it because I have a bunch of coaches that I love. And, I believe that my concept is, our pivot's going to be phenomenal. And I want to take care of them, but I also can't put myself in a situation that if I'm believing, and Mark, you know what I'm talking about. Like, if you're sitting there and it just doesn't feel right, and it ain't right,
Yeah, I feel you, man. It sends me to having done a lot of, working. I have a lot of clients that are fitness business owners, and oftentimes the rule of thumb I've sort of encouraged them to is like, be as generous as you possibly can while making certain that you do not create financial ruin. Because that was a little my nerves up front, was watching, particularly in the beginning, because not everybody was reading the New York Times. They were just like, people just weren't paying attention. For some people, it seemed, right? And I think we've all had our own, like, the horrible unveiling as everyone's like, oh. And in the beginning, a lot of people were hoping to grind through for like 4 to 6 weeks. And, there's no easy answer for that because everyone has to decide that. But you do have to kind of figure out, my MO generally is you need to prepare for the worst case scenario. You have to protect the downside, because if you have financial ruin personally or professionally, no one has a job to go back to anyway. It doesn't matter, right? So like misguided generosity that leads someone to really ruin themselves is really in no one's best interest. That doesn't make it any easier, of course, in the moment when you have to make those difficult decisions. And, thank goodness we're not at a place yet where we've had to, frankly. But I do think that is definitely something that weighs, I think will continue to weigh heavily on me. And my hope is, and what I think allows me to move quickly and have some solace, because I admittedly, one of my continued weaknesses always is I can be overly concerned with what other people think, and I so badly don't want to let people down. I have this vision of the kind of leader I want to be, and am I betraying them? But for me, it's so paramount that if I close, I've let everyone down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible to say that there's not this level of emotion. I mean, I had to go back into the city last Saturday because I've been out of the club for 4 weeks, and I had to just, no one's been in the club for 4 weeks. So I'm like, all right, I pulled in front of Drive. No one was on the street. I took a picture of Broadway. There was a cop car on the street. Looking up and down Broadway, I saw nothing. I walked into the club. I had hand sanitizer. I had a face mask on. I walk into my space. It was clean. I grabbed some paperwork. I grabbed some equipment that I needed, and there was a level of like, wow, this is sad. I literally bled for this place for 15 years. I had my ass against the wall a dozen times where I legitimately didn't know if I was going to be able to operate the club the next day because things were so bad. And, you get to a point where, it's sustainable, it's making money, it's like, it's healthy, it's strong. Yeah. And you have all these plans, and then you're like, okay, so like part of it is, it's just not the way I thought things were going to transition. Sure. Now, I'm more concerned with my team. I know I'm going to be fine no matter what. I'm really concerned with my team, and what's that transition going to look like? Because whatever I transition to is going to be fine. Like, it'll be fine. I'm just, totally. The back of my head, I want to involve them all, just like you do as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's part of who we are.
Yeah, it's challenging, right? Because I also intellectually understand that they are resilient, and that, there's like an inner conflict, right? Part of it is like my own, I know, not helpful like tendencies and dreams, and probably like, I don't know, childhood stuff. I'm not sure, because I intellectually also understand they're all resilient. They're also all going to be fine. And yet there is this like, I don't think always helpful, like paternal desire I have to like, no, I want to help you, particularly because like, you get it, man. It's like when you've got, it's a small business, and it's a business owner's dream. Every business is somebody's dream. And these people believed in this weird dream I had, and they often made sacrifices and compromises and decisions to be a part of it and support this thing that I believed in, that was an utter expression of my soul and my heart and my love letter for humanity. And
I kicked ass.
I feel real.
But it also kicked ass. It's like what you did kicked ass. I mean, you did great with it.
Yeah. Listen, and and I think there was some benefit to be had by all, but there remains a very strong, which and I think you're speaking to as well, this deep loyalty and desire. Like, okay, what can I do to help these people? And admittedly, it's still a little abstract for me. I know it's going to be emotional for me at some point. But one thing that also has been sort of interesting that has surprised me a little bit is how stoic and kind of cold I can be when I'm just thinking about it as an external thing. The execution, I'm sure, would come with lots of suffering, but I'm able to like look at very dark scenarios and envision like, okay, well, if this happened, then we would do this incredibly difficult thing, and I don't feel too emotional when I'm thinking about it from that abstract, but I know in the moment. I mean, if based on what happens. But, the other thing too, that is an interesting, I think, cognitive dilemma that is challenging, that I've been thinking on a lot, is on the one hand, because I do think the job number one is don't die. Job number one is don't run out of money. Do not create financial ruin for you or the business. So that requires really, at least mentally, thinking through the worst case scenarios and on a spreadsheet and looking at dark numbers and reading the IMF reports and reading Imperial College and really preparing for the long winter. But emotionally, it's not actually helpful to live in that, right? It's good to do that like as a mental exercise, but the challenge is it's very difficult to do that and then close your laptop and be like, oh yeah, but that's like the worst case scenario. We even know what's going to happen. And right now I'm fine. And the next like 2 weeks, I know what's going on. And my dog and my wife are over there. So it is this interesting balance of preparing for the worst case scenario, but not allowing oneself to be emotionally weighted in what is definitionally the worst case scenario. It's not what's probably going to happen. It's just the worst case scenario that one wants to have the acorns for if long winter comes.
Yeah, and as that pendulum swings, like it's all happening for us, but I know both of you guys are successful and you're confident. Do you have that pendulum swing and go like, I'm going to kill it? Like when, I'm going to get on the other side of this and I'm going to kill it. And the people who don't survive, great, I'll take their business. Do you guys get those moments where like you see the challenge and you're like, yeah, I'm ready for this?
It's kind of, Mark, I think it's in your blood. I think it's in my blood. I mean, I think it's kind of hard not to, I mean, listen, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I remember when I heard the news that Monday night, I think at like 8 p.m. where it's like, all right, we got to close tomorrow. And it was, I mean, there wasn't for a second where I was like sad, depressed. I was like, all right, we got to pivot. Like we got to get on a call. We got to get on a Zoom call tomorrow with the staff. We got to pump them up. We got to figure out a way where we can, make money. How are they going to survive? And when I got on the phone with them, I actually got a little agitated for a second because everyone was like, it's 2 months and I have enough money to live for the next 2 months and I'll be fine. And I'm like, guys, you can't think like this. You have to think like this, like drive, like, we are gonna be okay one day. We are gonna come back, but you got to think like it's not, and you got to think like no gyms are gonna open because you're gonna need some runway to be able to build things up, and who knows what you're made of. I'm seeing some coaches of mine that are like really, really trying to step up, and they're really like, man, am I proud and do I feel good? And there's other coaches of mine where I just feel like they're kind of crumbling, and they're just like they're not making the effort, and it's okay. I'm not expecting everyone to be a chief, but right now we got to act like this ain't gonna happen again.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's a big piece, and so and particularly because there is, first of all, is different people have, I think, different inclinations and dispositions to really like grind. Different people have various levels of like confidence. Should I even try? Am I even successful if I do? And then, of course, right now there is this obvious real mental health challenge that basically everybody's faced. Like nobody's getting unscathed mentally from this. You might get out physically, and that's real, like mental health, like that's a real thing. Like I definitely, I am like pathologically happy, and I certainly, I definitely get in my own way and overdoubt myself a lot. But to your point, Derek, I do have that thing where like I can flip and I'll be like, actually, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to win because I'll do whatever I need to do to win. Right. So I have that piece, right? But even for me, like I definitely had, the first 2 weeks, I like, first of all, amongst us chickens, I had what I think was a non-diagnosed case of the COVID. So I was like super fatigued. I was sleeping like three naps per day. I couldn't smell. I couldn't taste. And I was like kind of depressed. And I was like, oh yeah, remember I felt like this in my 20s a lot. Like I just like couldn't get myself to do anything. And I don't know, and I'll never know how much of it was my body fighting the sickness and how much was it me just being shell-shocked after the adrenaline of getting it all set up. Because after we set up the virtual stuff, which I'm not even too involved in the actual execution of it, it's more back-end stuff, all of a sudden it was like, now what? And I needed like a week and a half to adapt. And then again, because I'm pathologically happy, I'm an entrepreneur, like literally I woke up one morning at 5 and I was like, oh, and I thought of like literally I had to get out of bed and start working because I had like 6 ideas. Like, oh, I should start doing this. This would be helpful. I start doing this email. And here's an idea. We can really drive referrals this way, yoop-a-doop-a-doo. But, I have a lot of empathy for anybody right now that just can't get out of that mental health thing. And it was probably a good experience for me to experience that because it had been so long. I think I can't say I had lost compassion, but I think I had lost a little empathy. I didn't remember what that was like. And I had moments in my 20s where I was just like, I cannot get out of bed and I'm just sad. And I've got 3 things to do, but I just can't do these 3 things.
Derek, has your lifestyle changed much?
No, honestly, like most of my work is consulting based, so I just doing the same sort of thing, right? So no, it hasn't. I honestly, I'm doing more workouts. My son is 15 years old. I'm giving him workouts. I'm doing it with him. I'm in better shape than I've been in the last 10 years. So shit, it's going well. I'll share this, and I shared this with Don right away, but Mark, my mom had a stroke 12 days ago. And I went like this, right? And then I rebounded right away, and it was the same attitude that you're talking about. Is like, we're going to do the rehab better than anybody else. Like, I've contacted people who are speech pathologists, and she's doing well. We just can't see her.
Right.
And that's the only thing. But certainly I kind of rebounded from that, going like, we're going to have the best freaking stroke rehab of anybody. So, I mean, either you're wired that way, and we can have moments of weakness once in a while, but certainly I've learned from, guys like you, like, shit, this is a challenge. That's all it is. It's not it's a minor setback, but it's certainly a challenge. So that's the only thing that's really changed for me, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's so interesting too, because I think this is a time where I hope, and I think a lot of people might be inspired to think a little bit more critically about just how the way they look at the world, what sort of frames they have, how that's working for them or not. And it's interesting because, social science can be fuzzy, but as you might know, conventional wisdom currently is that about half of your like attitude and your general positive emotion is genetically inherited, right? Like half, like a lot. And that's why it's this challenging situation, because on the one hand, like some people just get like a bad hand. Their set point is just like low. Whereas I know that I'm capable of getting low because I've had very low moments in my life, certainly growing up and even in my 20s. But the reality is, like, that was the thing that even when this happened, I was like, maybe I'm not as happy as I always thought I was. And then like one morning I woke up and was like, nope, I'm actually good to go. Let's rock.
Yeah.
Now, and again, I've worked to create life circumstances I like. I've created habits and frames where I look at the world in positive ways. But that's one thing we've seen consistently in the research when you look at everything from lottery winners to people that get paralyzed. They go through a certain period where they're bummed, but it doesn't matter if you get paralyzed. If you have that genetic set point, you just kind of like float back up there, and like you're sad for a couple weeks, and then you adapt, and then you kind of go back to where you were. Just as somebody that has a very low set point wins the lottery, they're thrilled for like a couple weeks, and at a certain point they're back, actually, you know what, everything does suck. People just like me for my money now. And it's interesting because, of course, if it's really out of your control, the only appropriate response is empathy and compassion. And as always, not unlike strength and conditioning, the only appropriate thing to focus on what you can control. Yes, different individuals have probably different abilities to adapt to training or to psychological training, but I think we all have an opportunity, and I think a social obligation, to do the best within our own constraints to cultivate good mindsets and improve our lives and serve the world and get honest around what are the things that bring us fulfillment and create a life around that.
Awesome. So with MFF, I mean, we're obviously all on hold, and when they give permission to open the doors, do you think it's something where it's just like, all right, they gave permission, we're opening the floodgates, or are you going to try and maybe put some type of system behind it?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I assume as we get closer, we'll know more about this. I think we'll probably have like a week notice, I think, before they really pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. And we probably won't be able to really know much until that week. So that might be the second week of May. It might be the last week of May. I could certainly see them pushing back a little bit further. I am assuming that what's going to happen is we're going to have to do social distancing, which basically means we have to reduce our capacity for all the things, which, as I mentioned, creates all sorts of problems with profitability and et cetera. But it is what it is. So that's what happens. We had created, I don't know if this tango happened to drive, Don, but we had like a 48-hour period where we thought we were going to stay open, but in a limited capacity. And we created all these like systems, these changes, these new cleaning protocols. And then after working like nonstop for 72 hours, we were like,
over. Yeah.
You're going to close. However, the good news is a lot of those systems, that sort of what I'm calling like the B strategy, is going to come into place. Because I think as we go forward, that's what's going to happen. We have the A strategy, which is gone for maybe 2 years, which is the life we want. Then you have the B strategy, which is like you're open, but there's a pandemic, so you need to keep social distancing. I think certainly cleaning is going to become a real big thing, and it's probably like classes and sessions need to be shorter because there needs more time to clean. I don't think it's impossible that people will be at the door with like a thermostat, with a thermometer, taking temperatures and be like, so sorry, you're elevated today. Now that we'll see, because more and more it's looking like asymptomatic super spreaders are a thing where, it's probably not a bad thing to do, but it's possible to be asymptomatic and be contagious for weeks. What are you going to do? So that's what I think will happen with that. I think we'll keep the virtual thing going, and What we don't know yet is how it's going to be integrated, because that's become such a big part of what MFF is now. My assumption is for individuals that don't want or can't come into the clubhouse, that's going to be part of the solution, and that will allow us to pick up some sticks of what we lose for the in-person. But, to answer the question very directly is we're definitely not going back to what we were.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and I know you're big on the communication strategy and all that. Are you going to communicate? I'm interested to see how you communicate this. Like, this is how we're going to clean. This is how we're going to staff the classes. This
Totally.
how
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's a thing that I think is the key anytime in crisis management is just people just want communication. Even another kind of lesson I had throughout this was during that couple-week period, there hasn't really been anything going on. Technically, virtually everybody's unemployed. I don't have anything else to say to people, but I think and I was depressed, and I was unable to communicate to people because I was just sad, right? And then after I snapped out of it, I was like, you know what, I just need to be in touch with people. So, now certainly even with the team internally, they get a couple emails a week. We do an optional team meeting on Wednesdays, and I write them a micro updates email on Friday where I give them 4 random things. And we all joke about it because it's micro updates, almost nothing has happened, but I'm like, well, remember I said I'd write that email about referrals? Well, I did, because it hasn't been done yet because we just talked about this 48 hours ago, right? But I think for the people that don't care and are I don't care, I'm unemployed, and the opportunity to not read your emails is amazing for me. Well, great, they can archive and delete it, right? But for the people that want some knowledge and want some touch base, I think that's been very helpful. And I think as a general rule, more communication is almost always better than less, because the people that don't want the email can archive it. Clients, it's kind of going to be the same thing. So another thing that has really been working for MFF and Biz for Unicorns, as I mentioned, is I think writing multiple emails a week, every week, and really going back, honestly, kind of the beginning of MFF and really going back to a personal brand, these bizarre, eccentric, philosophical, flirtatious, vulgar emails that I'm reading from one person about my life, and here's what I'm thinking about, and here's might be useful for you. Because I think another potential opportunity in this moment, I think to be very true, is right now is an opportunity to build an audience. You might not be able to monetize the audience so great, but right now people have more time than they ever have to consume content. They want things. You're probably not selling lots of high ticket stuff maybe, but you can develop relationships and do your best to help people now, however best you can, whether it be with low cost things or free things. And I think first of all, it's the best thing to do, right? That's the reason you do it, because you can help, so you should, And then long term, I think all that stuff will come back. So we'll see, but it's going to be an art, I think, too, particularly if we wind up having to make those difficult decisions. That's the other thing I've thought about is if we have to, make some tough calls here, how does that get communicated to the ninjas? And, our MO has generally just been ruthless transparency. At all times, it's kind of been my, which is good because I don't really have a good poker face. For better or for worse, it's not been a strength of mine to play it very close to the vest. And I also think the other advantage that everybody has right now, particularly in communications with clients, and I think even with teams, is just I don't know, everybody gets it. I find everyone is very flexible during the apocalypse. I'm not saying people aren't stressed or don't have emotions or don't wish you would do this other thing differently, but I don't know. I think anybody unless they're having their moment, which is okay, and we all get to have our moments. I think when anyone is not at a real dip of their personal roller coaster, everybody's giving everybody else a real long leash right now, and kind of understanding everybody's doing the best we can, So I think a lot of the things that felt like really big concerns a couple of weeks ago, anytime you have a crisis situation, you're like, oh, that was really funny. We were so heated about that, whatever, that grip on that bent over row, Now it's
who cares?
Who cares?
I'm definitely gaining some patience with specific people right now, and I'm just kind of laughing it off. But better late than never on that area. All right, Mark. Well, listen, this has been amazing. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. You've always been a good friend, and you're one of the more respected guys in the fitness industry, especially in New York City. I mean, so what you've done has been incredible, and I'm excited. Derek and I are excited for people to just get a little bit more insight into what it is you're doing and how it is you're handling this. And I think your opinions are incredible. So thank you. If there's anything that you need, obviously, I'm always here as a friend, and let me know if I can help in any way.
Deeply, deeply appreciate that. Great chat with you, gentlemen, and try to figure it all out together, because that's how we're going to be doing this for a while.
I'll see you in a month. Derek, I'll see you in a few days.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much, Mark. Take care.
Bye, Brian. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Take care. Peace.